There is just no way in hell you can discuss the PlayStation 1 without bringing up Crash Bandicoot. If you weren't buying a PS1 for Final Fantasy VII, you were most likely buying it for Crash. I thought this game looked gorgeous at the time, and I still think the game graphically holds up extremely well for PlayStation 1 standards. Crash's model, on the other hand, looks a bit... what's the word I'm looking for? Dopey. Is it me, or does he always look extremely paranoid with this constant head turning? Almost as if he's a secret drug dealer on the lookout for the police. Here's a fun fact for all you Crash newbies out there. Back when this game was in development, its codename was Sonic's Ass Game, because the 3D nature of the game always had the camera looking at the main character's backside, and the most popular animal in the platform genre at the time was Sonic the Hedgehog. I guess you can use this codename nowadays to describe a Sonic game you don't like. Thank you, and good night. His traction on the ground isn't the stuff of kings either. It's not as bad as Luigi's in the Lost Levels, but you should always take caution on where you stop on tiny platforms. Oh god, that was embarrassing. This game loves bottomless pits. It's a good thing Crash doesn't suffer from knockback when getting hit, or else I'd be fucking terrified. No, instead Crash instantly dies upon taking any damage of any sort. Enemy contact, stage hazards, or getting blown up by TNT crates. Inside specially marked boxes you can find Aku Aku. I just sounded like I was advertising a toy you can find in a cereal box. That funky theme that played whenever you got a third mask was always one of my favorite tracks in the franchise. Crash Bandicoot also just loves throwing extra lives at you, whether it's a whole bunch of Wumper fruit to collect or Crash's shit-eating grin slapped on the box. I managed to max out my lives just an hour into the game. I can't remember if I ever got a game over playing this. I've had plenty of deaths, no doubt about that. The other biggest challenge, which I could safely say is the biggest challenge in the game, is going for 100% completion. For fuck's sake, where do I start? Every level, except for boss stages, have boxes that you can bust open with a simple hop or a spin attack. That's another thing that feels very satisfying to do in this game now that I think about it. Breaking a whole bunch of boxes at once? Yeah, that feels good. If you can break open every crate located inside the level, you're rewarded with that stage's gem. And getting the 100% mark requires that you get all these gems. Every stage has checkpoint boxes that you can break, so in the case that you die, you restart from the last checkpoint box you broke. Okay, that's fine enough. After all, if you had to start from the very beginning of the level with some of these stages, that'd be simply maddening. Here's how it works. Checkpoint boxes save your current level progression, but it doesn't save the amount of boxes you destroyed before breaking it. What's that? You broke almost every box at this point of the level? What's that? You're on your third checkpoint box because the level is pretty fucking long as it is? What's that? You died near the end of the level and restarted from your last checkpoint? Well, guess what? Your ass better press start, hit the select button, and choose a stage from the world map again, because those boxes you got earlier in the stage are no longer broken, and in some occasions it's impossible to backtrack to reobtain them. You see this exclamation box, and you hit it, but you don't know what it does. Nowadays, I know very well that these boxes cause other boxes to appear, usually from these transparent outlines, but in this case, the outlines are completely invisible, meaning you would have no idea that boxes would spawn here after hitting the exclamation box further up the stage. For years, I always thought that boxes destroyed via TNT explosions didn't count because of how the tally at the end of the stage kept insisting that I was missing boxes I thought were clearly gone. And let me tell you, in this game, there's nothing more frustrating than the stage telling you that you're off by one box. Oh, come on! In the situation where the TNT box is grouped with a bunch of other boxes, including more TNT boxes, you need to make sure you see that son of a bitch explode. If you activate the timer and travel too far away, the active TNT box will explode, but nothing else will be destroyed. Just... huh? Certain boxes contain emblems of your girlfriend. If you collect all three in the stage, you can enter a bonus level to score more Wumper Fruit for extra lives, or just extra lives in boxes overall. This is also how you save the game. I repeat, in order to simply save the game, you gotta find 3 emblems across the stage, beat the bonus level, and then step on the transporter. I'll never forget Christmas of 1997. My family, like many others, always allowed the kids to open up one present on Christmas Eve, with the rest of it waiting for us the next morning. And what did I lay eyes upon when I opened up that early gift? Final Fantasy VII. Because Cortex has no other operatives left, he hatches a plan to use his arch-rival Crash Bandicoot to collect the crystals for him, disguising his true purpose by claiming that he needs the crystals in order to prevent a terrible catastrophe from destroying the planet. Just why in the hell is Crash Bandicoot so gullible to help out Cortex to begin with? Well, because Crash is dumb. No ifs, ands, or buts. The plot wastes no time in telling the player that Cortex is really evil. Hell, the subtitle of the game is Cortex Strikes Back. Unfortunately for our beloved Bandicoot, collecting crystals is the name of the game here. Levels are now broken up into tiers, and entering a level is just as easy as walking into the stage's portal, and there you go. In order to complete the current row of levels and access the next section of stages, you gotta collect each crystal in the corresponding level and beat the boss on the way up to the next tier. You really can't miss crystals during your journey through the level. They're placed in locations where you'd have to be practically blind in order to miss them. Steel boxes aren't the only new things in town. Crash 2 brings us the highly unstable nitro boxes. Just one touch, and you'll be singing that didgeridoo in the sky in no time. A detail I failed to mention in the previous review was that back in the first game, after you broke your first checkpoint box, you couldn't afford to lose a life at all after doing so, because even if you backtracked to break the boxes that were no longer broken, you would immediately warp back to the world map screen, completely skipping the gem collection sequence. So you pretty much couldn't afford to die at all after getting the first checkpoint while trying to get the stage's gem. Thank you for reminding me of that bullshit, Categoras, and I greatly appreciate you watching my videos, dude, thanks. And perhaps the greatest change of all, you can save your game just by walking up to this window in the warp room and boom, there you go, saved progress. No more need for Tawna emblems. Sadly, Crash 2 didn't really improve on the whole backtracking aspect when you're collecting boxes. Now that I think about it, it's worse here. The supreme king of this pain-in-the-ass design is Cold Hard Crash, another level located inside the 4th warp room. It has a shitload of boxes to break, one of which is hidden atop this one box in the bonus room, which will no doubt cause you to fucking flip out when it turns out to be the only box you're missing at the end of this hellhole. And the death route requires you to go forward and back along this very dangerous pathway with ice physics, nitro boxes, and a bunch of other shit that'll make your hands sweat. It also has boxes to break, so you have to go through here if you want the box gem. It also has a hidden gem located at the very end of the pathway, but if you grab it too soon, you won't be able to backtrack to grab not only the new boxes that appear when you struck the exclamation box at the end of the path, but you also won't be able to ride the death route platform back down to the normal route, where more boxes await to be broken. Without a doubt in my mind, this is the worst level in the PlayStation 1 Crash Bandicoot series. Take it away, Crash. I've seen a gem-powered laser before. Oh god, that's awful. And these two came out the same year, too. Crash Bandicoot War! I always did find that emphasis on the warped part of the title screen a bit funny, and seeing that both Cortex and the new villain of the game Uka Uka are voiced by Clancy Brown, it just sounds like he passed a major kidney stone right as he screamed "Warp!" But I'm not here to gross you guys out for this entire review. The heads up display now tells you how many boxes the stage holds, so you can get a good idea of what to expect without having to wait until the end of the level to learn about the box total. This change also applies to the bonus rooms, which I'm convinced was implemented solely because of Cold Hard Crash and its bullshit hidden box. There's a power crystal in each stage that you need to grab to complete the level, and there's also the returning gems you can get by various methods, very much like Crash Bandicoot 2, only with less backtracking, thank fucking god. If you're still not satisfied with the gold relics, you can always go after the fabled platinum relics. These are something else entirely. The gold relics required extensive knowledge of the stage already, but these, you've got to pretty much master the stage and blaze through it perfectly, knowing where to jump, spin, super spin, slide jump, how to effectively use Aku Aku, crates, cutting corners, all of that. You guys all know what a bucket list is, right? Well, one of the things I always want to do at some point or another in my life is to get all the platinum relics in Crash Bandicoot 3. Which I know doesn't sound like a big deal to a lot, but it's so damn hard. It's definitely not impossible. In fact, I managed to get a platinum relic in this stage by complete fucking accident. But my hands get so cramped from replaying the trial numerous times. Thank you, DualShock controller. Your constant shaking keeps my joints one step ahead of a serious case of arthritis. DualShock vibration is not an actual cure for arthritis, as far as I'm aware. The primary focus of the game is still going down 3D hallways with some 2D action occasionally sprinkled in from time to time, but every group of stages has at least one of these new playstyles. Now, having a bunch of playstyles in one game can usually mean bad news. You want some examples? Just look at 3D Sonic games. I couldn't give two shits about the amount of playstyles as long as they're consistent and in relation to what the franchise is about. For many who grew up with strictly a PlayStation 1, if it wasn't Crash Bandicoot, it was possibly a certain purple dragon, which you can play a demo of by entering the Konami code of all things on the title screen of Crash Bandicoot 3. Trust me guys, I know there's a lot of you who want me to spend some time on Spyro the Dragon, but this may come as a shock to you. I never grew up with Spyro. In fact, one of the joke characters you can spot after fully completing Crash 3, known as Fake Crash, was designed after a horrendously inaccurate plushie that was sold in Japanese markets. I think it's great to see that the developers of Naughty Dog had a good sense of humor. So I did a bit of research, and it turns out that Naughty Dog was only signed with Universal Interactive Studios to produce 3 games on the PlayStation. So what makes Crash Team Racing a great kart racer? A number of things actually. Let's start with this, the multi-tap. You only need one console and one copy of the game to play with up to 4 players, none of that link cable bullshit. You just need the multi-tap and 4 controllers. Come on folks, it was the very beginning of 4-player action on a console, cut it some slack. Anyone else ever get the compulsion to toss this thing like a boomerang when they were young? Never mind. Whether you're a good or bad guy, you either have Aku Aku or Uku Uku giving you some tips and tricks on how the driving mechanics work, or how to effectively use items. But what the hell is going on with these mouth animations?
You must race other open tracks and come in first place.
Hey Elliot.
Hey John.
Did you know Crash Team Racing took some inspiration from Diddy Kong Racing on the Nintendo 64?
I did not know that, John. By the way, how did that lockjaw surgery go?
Well, it was a real mouth opener. But there's no feeling worse than doing so well in a race and having all that suddenly stripped away because of a goddamn time warp, a barrage of missiles, or a fucking invincibility match from opposing players. Oh, it's a great time for the opponents, but by God, do you want to tear their heads off. Anyway, Crash Bash, the only party game that I could think of that has the most intimidating opening title sequence in the history of video games.
Sony Computer Entertainment America presents.
Am I playing Crash Bash or Resident Evil?
Crash Bash!
Hooray! Move Whiplash! Alright. There are 3 other tiers of minigames to play, but you gotta unlock them first via single player, and you gotta play a lot of minigames in order to get them. Okay boys, so what will it be?
How about Tank Wars?
No, let's do Medieval Mayhem.
You oblivious assholes. Those games are locked. Looks like it's Pogo Pandemonium for the 8th time.
You fuck!
I realize that ending the marathon with a rather mediocre outlook on Crash Bash may seem anticlimactic for some, but I wanted to stress again that I want to stay strictly with the PlayStation 1 Crash titles. And even though I don't really like Crash Bash that much anymore, my opinions on the original trilogy are still the same, and I think you should really go out and try these games. You may be pleasantly surprised. Or not, you know, can't please everybody. There are other games to play, such as... I'm drawing a complete blank. Fuck, nothing. I got nothing. Fuck! I was like a damn fool.
How about Tank Wars?
No, let's do Medieval Mayhem.
What the fuck?
I like that. We'll do it. Looks like it's Pogo Pandemonium for the 8th time.
You fuck!
Think Elliot cracked up too soon.
Yeah.
Will there ever be a point where I follow a Kingdom Hearts video with another Kingdom Hearts video? Well, considering we got Sonic Mania coming out in less than a month, which you know is taking priority when it finally gets here. In this case, well, I got a review code from Activision alongside Cat Icarus, which I'm very grateful for. It's why we were able to make that collaboration as fast as we did. But when you get a code, it's required that both parties make their own video about the product, so that's how that works. The thing is, I was planning on making a video for myself anyway, since a lot of you guys were expecting me to follow up on my original Crash videos I did a couple of years back. And there's always a chance you may not even know what a Cat Icarus is. But if you'd like to find out, you can find a collaboration video in the card above.
You muppety malicious monkey!
He's such a nice man. But speaking of her, you can now switch between Crash and Coco at any time between all 3 games. It's merely cosmetic, but it's cool to see Crash's sister get in on the action and help her brother out. She even has her own variation of the Crash dance. It's a small thing, but something I think adds a ton of charm to 20-year-old games. Oh god, these games are over 20 years old. The Crash dance itself was changed a little. Instead of doing these pelvic thrusts, Crash now does this running in place routine, which looks cool, but near impossible to replicate in real life. That shit hurts my legs. The Insane Trilogy also brings some small gameplay adjustments that makes the 3 games more consistent with each other. And I think it's the most obvious with Crash Bandicoot 1. First off, you can now die and still get the box gem. That's just... Of course, you never needed to collect all the gems to just simply beat the game, but it's pleasing to know that Vicarious Visions knows a bit of mercy, and fuck it, I already 100% the original Crash 1 more than enough times. I got nothing left to prove, goddammit, I just want to fucking... This game can get pretty difficult. Now, you'll get more than enough extra lives, but platforming can get, pardon the wordplay, insanely intense, especially in stages like Slippery Climb or one of the bridge levels, where it's not uncommon to lose up to a dozen lives because of how precise your landings need to be. Just recently, we got DLC in the form of Stormy Ascent, a level originally cut from the first game because it was considered too difficult. Too difficult in Crash 1, fucking hell. Now, being able to finally play it is really neat. It's cool that cut content can finally see the light of day after so many years, but holy shit. Never in my life did I think Crash would get a revival of this caliber after so many years of meandering, and from what I've heard, this is selling incredibly well, and Activision is ready to revive the series if things continue to look up. As long as that means producing top quality games on par or even better than Crash 2 or 3, that's all I could ask for. But why stop there? I would love a remake of Crash Team Racing. Oh, that'd be amazing. The question afterwards was, okay, so were they going to do the same for Crash Team Racing? Okay, the immediate question afterwards is whether they're going to do the same for Spyro, and the answer turned out to be yes, so happy for Spyro fans, but late last year, the Crash Team Racing Remastered was revealed titled Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, and of course I was totally on board. The original on the PlayStation remains one of my favorite kart racers in the genre. As far as the previous content goes, you can now freely swap characters during Adventure Mode. Before, you were only allowed to choose one character, and that's who you were stuck with throughout the whole thing, but now you can pause at any time in the hub world and choose someone else. And it's good to see that Aku Aku and Uku Uku got proper lip animations this time instead of whatever the hell you call this from the PS1 game. Can you get through the track fast enough while collecting as many time boxes as you can? It's like the classic time trial challenge with the added Crash Bandicoot gimmick. The CTR tokens where you have to collect the 3 letters and still come in first place, combined with the issue I have adjusting to the game's new jump physics, these were especially frustrating to nab, and the crystal challenges, I mean, I always hated these. They want you to nab 20 crystals in a boxed arena in a go-kart. In a platformer, sure. In a kart, hell no, it's way too imprecise. That feeling when you barely skim by a crystal and don't pick it up, I'm pretty sure I would have left permanent dents on my controller if I continued on. But on top of local multiplayer, there's also online, which I know is kind of a given in today's age, but it's new for Crash Team Racing and thus should be highlighted. You're gonna get your ass whooped, just saying right now. Now, finding a game to join was never a problem, but you're likely going up against folks who poured blood and sweat into memorizing course design and getting the most out of their character builds. I never had a chance, but this ended up being one of the most lucrative ways to earn Wumpa coins from what I observed, at least compared to playing in Adventure Mode in Arcade where I swear it's a fucking drip feed. But alright, let's address that elephant in the room, shall we? Okay, so no matter which mode you play, you earn these Wumpa coins for completing races. You earn more from scoring higher positions, and I think the length of the track has something to do with it as well. I don't know, sometimes the numerical values seem all over the place. This game has something called the Pit Stop, a store where you can spend those Wumpa coins on new characters to unlock, new decals for your vehicle, and there's even bundles where you can get multiple things at once at a discount. If you can call this a discount, you tell me. The content's there, it still is, but to try and squeeze more money out of the player, particularly the player who might feel compelled to invest more money because they don't feel like doing Grand Prix or because they play online, see this racer rocking a cool costume and car, and they think to themselves, oh man, I really like that right about now, and here's Activision like, well, you can get it right now for a price. That's not to say I didn't give the next game a shot. I absolutely loved my time with Crash Bandicoot 2 and Crash Bandicoot 3, so when Wrath of Cortex was released, I made it a priority to rent it for a weekend, and then I played a bit of it, and then I stopped. Alas, relations would get rocky between Universal, Sony, and Mark Cerny, and the free-roaming Crash Bandicoot game would be scrapped in favor of a more traditional structure, with Traveler's Tales being placed in charge and given only 12 months to make the new game from scratch. And when you're only given 12 months to develop a new game on new hardware, you know there's gonna be some cut corners, and Wrath of Cortex is clearly the end result of this kind of bullshit. Even as I'm loading the game for the first time, something felt off. The Traveler's Tales mascot, I mean, I remember when this dude had a nice smile on his face, and here he's all like, yeah, don't judge, I need the money. He needs an additional power source, with Uka Uka suggesting that they tap into the power of these ancient evils from yesterday, the Elementals. They're just more masked with very villain of the week personalities. Got some notable voice actors though, Tom Wilson, Mark Hamill, Jess Harnell, and even Arlie Ermey.
I bet you're the kind of guy that would fuck a person in the ass and not even have the goddamn common courtesy to give him a reach around.
You know, one of my favorite things about Crash 3 was when the villains would show up before a level starts and start trash talking you. Now these guys still do that in some capacity, but nowhere near on the same level.
Leave my levels alone!
Damn, that's all he had to say, huh? Okay then. I don't know, these guys even have names? What's that? What's it? Oh, they do. What are they? Rocco, Pyro, Lolo. What? Wouldn't it make more sense if it was Blolo? He's wind-based. And what's this one? Wawa? Oh, my right hand is shaking. Wrath of Cortex. Triggering my compulsions like an asshole. I'm not sure if it was just the extra frames of animation, but Crash felt slower, his jumps floatier, his slide jump, I mean, can that even be called a slide jump? Just sort of does this thing with his arm, he gets the height, but it looks so off. Hell, that's my subtitle for this game, Crash Bandicoot, everything is off. What the hell happened to the gems and crystals? These things had such a tantalizing look in the older games that made you just want to go and grab these things immediately. Shiny objects, I gotta get them. I don't know what was going on here, but the collectibles, look at these things. I guess I can sort of understand trying to make the magical stones more transparent, but I shit you not, these looked so unremarkable that at one point in a later level, I missed the crystal because I straight up just didn't see that bitch. I've never had that happen to me in the earlier games because they were way more obvious. Look, I really just ran past that thing. Oh man, it is so loose in handling, it turns so wide, and you have to start the whole race over if you fall into a pit, which wasn't the case in Crash 3, and trying to get the gem is a sight to behold. There's just no way you're getting the crystal and the gem at the same time with these controls. Win the race first, grab the crystal, then slowly pump the gas throughout the whole fucking stage and pray you don't miss a single box because you can't turn the vehicle around. Crashteroids is legit one of the worst levels in the game, if not for the lesser design, but the sheer level of jank. I don't know if it's the enemies running into me from behind, maybe a rogue asteroid, but you could just fucking die here for no goddamn reason. Like there, what the hell killed me? And this happened like 3 to 4 times. Really though, there's jank everywhere. Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Jank, and that's damn appropriate. I'm willing to bet that developmental crunch was a big factor in this game being as half-hearted as it was, and you know, crunch sucks. Not that crunch, the other crunch. Oh, maybe? I don't know. Alright, Crash Twinsanity, a game that I have 3 copies of, if you can believe it or not. 2 were donations from 2 different people, and the Xbox version I got for myself since, well, I knew I had plans on looking at this game in the future. I wanted what I thought would be the best version of the game. So a couple years ago, I looked at Sonic 06, and however, despite what I heard, I've also heard that Crash Twinsanity is considered one of the better post-Naughty Dog Crash games. Had a lot of people on my social media in the last few weeks telling me it's one of their favorites. So either you guys have low standards, or even with the game's reputation, there is something to salvage here. Traveler's Tales was once again placed in charge for this upcoming romp, their newly christened Oxford division to be more precise, which was created for the sole purpose of making future Crash games. And after Twinsanity and 1 Super Monkey Ball game, this division would shut down. Hey, if I can give credit right off the bat, at least the mascot isn't looking so miserable in the opening this time. But when the devs caught wind of Insomniac's new Ratchet & Clank, which to them was almost exactly what they were going for, the team said, oh shit, we need to take a different direction. Crash Bandicoot Evolution was tossed aside, and it was then decided to make the game more comedic, like a lot more comedic. Though initially given the working title of Crash Bandicoot Unlimited, apparently this game went through so many working subtitles that publisher VU Games, I guess out of frustration, gave Traveler's Tales 1 hour to make a final decision or else they would go with the default Unlimited. The name Crash Twinsanity was then set in stone with just 5 minutes to spare. Cutting it close, and it didn't stop there. Twinsanity is set 3 years after the end of Wrath of Cortex. The evil scientist tries to eliminate Crash once and for all for the 5th time, even bringing his entire posse from previous games, including a pissed-off Polar with a fucking baseball bat. I know some might think that's a little sudden and harsh, and I say, well, it was only a matter of time if you jumped on this poor bastard in Crash 2 for those extra lives. I say Crash had it coming. But what the plot lacks in depth, you know, unfinished or not, it's damn funny. Legit, the jokes and visual humor for Crash Twinsanity are good. It's clear that the devs loved playing the original games, and not only are the callbacks to those games great, but man, they really went above and beyond with Cortex. No doubt the best thing about this game, also marking the first time Lex Lang voiced the dude, replacing Clancy Brown after 3 games. And I mean, I love Clancy Brown on the roll, but Lex Lang is just as good if you ask me. As a more comedic Cortex, his delivery is on point, enhanced with great character animations and awesome lines. He carries the whole show, individually and with his antics involving Crash. Now, Crash doesn't really speak throughout the game to really compare, but his pantomiming is fantastic. This Crash design, big gangly teeth aside, really captures the cartoony nature of the Bandicoot. He may not speak, but with these expressions, he doesn't really need to. And the focus on acapella for most of the game's score does great in emphasizing that. And for this game, Crash isn't alone. That's the big thing with Crash Twinsanity. Sometimes you'll have to team up with Cortex to get through some obstacles, beating the ever-living piss out of each other as you roll through a bunch of tubes and tunnels, fighting over a crystal with Crash being able to spin Cortex around for some extra distance using his large fucking head as a hammer to break boxes or play some whack-a-mole. I thought that was great. Or you can even toss him across large gaps and watch as Cortex shoot nearby enemies and activate certain switches. Cortex might suddenly find himself with a beehive on his head or getting chased by an evil Crash that's quickly forgotten about, but you gotta make sure to clear the path so that he doesn't die, and I love these because I not only find it a good challenge, but I love seeing things get progressively worse for Cortex. Once I saw that bear poke his head out of the tree and start chasing him, that's it. That was the winner for me. There are no in-game rewards, no upgrades for Crash like the Death Tornado Spin or the Bazooka or faster running speed. If you don't really care for these sort of extras, gems are just for completion purposes. And that's valid, don't get me wrong, but it does ring a little hollow in my eyes. After a while, I sort of stopped caring, and because I also knew that boxes were no longer tied to gems, there were times where, I couldn't believe this, I didn't feel like breaking boxes. And in a Crash game, that's a cardinal sin. You see boxes, you break them. But sometimes, I think I'll pass. Times like these really made me thirsty for those extra lives, unless they're out of reach and it's super awkward. Come on. There! Jesus Christ. Normally I'm bloated with lives in Crash, but in this game I managed to game over a couple of times. The utter assload of TNT and Nitro crates that Crash Twinsanity has a goddamn fetish for, my god, they're all over the place in this game, certainly wasn't helping, and usually there's this sort of plunger box that you set off to clear the path, but dealing with these are nevertheless nerve-wracking because these sons of bitches are one-hit kills no matter what. And you might think, well John, that was always the case in the other games. I'm like, no bitch, I'm talking even with an Aku Aku mask. Yeah, Aku Aku doesn't protect you from TNT or Nitro crates in this game. Why not? What's going on here? Was Aku Aku's power also cut for time? He never felt more powerless. Okay, he's still good for blocking enemy attacks, but stage hazards? Nope, it's like he's not even there, and there's no music when you get 3 of them. Aku Aku went on vacation. I think I woke him from his beauty sleep even. Look at his eyes in this one cutscene. At first I thought the evil twins hijacked his mind after Aku Aku and Uka Uka failed to stop them, but then I got to the scene again on the Xbox version and nope, just a graphical hiccup. But that is par for the course with Crash Twinsanity. When I'm talking incomplete, I don't just mean cut content, I mean the game's coding didn't get all the proper checks and balances. First time I played this game, giving it a test before I made more dedicated recordings, I found myself squeezing through these wooden fences during the first Cortex ball sequence, and I was basically stuck since you can't jump in this form, and the ledge was too high to get back on. A soft lock in the first 10 minutes. Excellent. Watch and be amazed at the great sliding Crash. Managed to do this twice, both here and when I was trying to sneak by the hall monitor in the academy level. And imagine the horror the kid must have been going through seeing this bug-eyed abomination just slowly drifting towards him. So as Crash was going multi-platform, he also jumped to the Game Boy Advance with Crash Bandicoot The Huge Adventure, Crash Bandicoot 2 Entranced, and Crash Purple Ripto's Rampage, the first Crash games developed by Vicarious Visions, who would later take the wheel for the Insane Trilogy, as I mentioned in that video. Though these 3 are often grouped together as a trilogy because they all share the same developer, for this video I'm just going to be looking at Huge Adventure and Entranced since I think it would be more appropriate to look at Crash Purple along with Spyro Orange together in a separate video, since those 2 are meant to be played together. And you know, when I actually give Spyro some love, which I still haven't done to this day, I have my reasons. Well, but I'll save that for another time. Once again, we see Dr. Cortex and Uka Uka groaning over their past failures involving world domination in Crash Bandicoot. Cortex, however, has a secret weapon up his sleeve, again, and instead of just making another Bandicoot, he just decides to shrink the whole planet. Doesn't put it in a bottle, which is what I thought was going to happen next, Cortex taking a page from Brainiac, but Cortex just shrinks the world and then points and laughs at it, basically. So Aku Aku then tells Crash to stop Cortex's current scheme by traveling the world and collecting power crystals. You know how it goes, you can use it to extend your attack, or you can use it in midair to extend your jump. In Crash 3, that felt so good to take shortcuts or glide over hazards. I think you can do that in Huge Adventure, but honestly, I'm not sure because the thing rarely fucking works. Either the game isn't reading my button mashing, or they want me to mash the fuck out of this button because sometimes that ended up working, and other times it didn't. Or you get scenarios like this where I found myself floating in midair without mashing at all. I'm pressing nothing on the controller during this, but it's pretty freaky. I wish I could do this at will. Entropy is more than willing to oblige, so he enlists the aid of this egg-shaped dude named Entrance, a master hypnotist, and they work together to kidnap Coco and Crunch from their home and brainwash them to do their bidding for about 2 minutes anyway. And they try to kidnap Crash as well, but Aku Aku manages to save him at the last second, and instead the villains end up accidentally sucking in fake Crash instead. That's a weird time to suddenly make fake Crash a thing, but okay then, so fake Crash is in this game. As mentioned before, aesthetically Entrance borrows a lot from Crash 3 this time, and I guess Wrath of Cortex 2 by proxy. Like, they also brought in the rollerball here, the Atlas Sphere from Wrath of Cortex. Oh my god. What is with that 3D model of Crash? I don't know why I find that so funny seeing them like that. I mean, the controls are fine, the levels are okay, depth perception could be a little better. Hard to tell what I can fall off from sometimes. I'm easy to please. I don't know why I find that so funny to look at. But let's get the obvious thing out of the way. It's not really Crash Bandicoot 4, that was Wrath of Cortex. It's even labeled as the 4th game in its Japanese release, with Twinsanity being labeled as the 5th game. But I think Activision and company are now doing everything in their power to pretend every game past the original trilogy didn't happen, or at least don't matter any. It's not like I have nostalgic memories of Crash's life in the 2000s, but I admit, I do feel a little bad for those games. With this game's subtitle, It's About Time, I expect something like that from a disgruntled Sonic Adventure Adventure 3 mod. Don't deny it, you know it make more sense then, and I get it. This title has a double meaning. So you remember that little bit at the end where Cortex, Entropy, and Uka Uka were sent far into the past because they got caught in that time vortex and they turned into babies playing tug of war with Uka Uka's face? Yeah, that was a little strange, but apparently that's a thing of the past now. As Cortex and Entropy are back to being full size, with Uka Uka tapping into all of his power to tear open a quantum rift, allowing our villains to escape. Well, Cortex and Entropy managed to escape. Uka Uka is left to rot, probably for the next game likely. I mean, the opening plays him up to be as sinister as possible. There's a menacing vibe there I haven't seen since Uka Uka's debut back in Crash 3 on the PlayStation. But after the opening, the dude is barely an entity until near the end of the game, where it's then revealed that he's teamed up with his female dimensional counterpart to enact his plans. I love to see how that meeting worked out, but it's given next to no focus. But for what it's worth, I love the whole interplay between the two when they actually do get some screen time together. How everyone is grossed out that they tease each other, and I don't know, is that some sort of dimensional masturbation? And then there's Dingle Dial, who's decided to retire from a life of villainy and just open up a restaurant, but thanks to Cortex's shenanigans, his diner is blown to hell. He's sucked into a different dimension, and now the dude just wants to go home. He also just straight up swears.
Bastards!
That I was not expecting at all, but I guess Crash Bandicoot is growing up alongside longtime fans. Soon he'll ride a motorcycle and get a gun and fight aliens and... Oh, wait a minute, he's already done all that. Nothing really made me wince, except for that one moment near the end of the game where you're escaping dimensions. You grab the berries to escape, and then you're suddenly visually assaulted with that crash face meme from 2017. And I know I'm speaking as someone who made a similar joke in my Insanity review back in 2017, but that was back in 2017. Toys for Bob was a little late to the punch on that one. That just leaves Ika Ika, the one I was dreading the most because I saw what this mask could do in the trailers. It's the anti-gravity mask. You press the button and now you're on the ceiling, and you press it again and now you're on the floor. Anti-gravity, yay, woo. And then there's Crash Bandicoot 4, the collectathon nightmare from hell where more than 70% of the game's 100% completion mentality seemed to be directly inspired from Cold Hard Crash, the one level from Crash Bandicoot 2 that nobody fucking liked fully completing. Folks, that kind of shit is all over the place in Crash 4, and let's just remind ourselves, Crash Bandicoot becoming a much harder game when trying to nab all the collectibles is nothing new, but this is on a level far more extreme than the original game, and you remember from that review how much I hated getting 100% in the first Crash game. It's 10 times worse here for varying reasons, which is impressive, but come the fuck on. And then there's the overabundance of those goddamn hidden boxes. If you're gonna jump into this game with the intent of getting everything, assume every vertical stack of boxes has a hidden box on top of it off screen. Oh my god, that happens so often in this game. And then there's those lone individual boxes that, look right there, Jesus Christ, I barely see that son of a bitch. Or this one, which I only caught a glimmer of by complete fucking accident when I was far away enough for the camera to pick it up. Or this one, which I also found by complete accident when I almost fell to my death on this falling platform. The box gem is a tradition as old as time in Crash Bandicoot, and they went and made it way too arduous, making the game Crash 4 It's About Time to Crash 4 It's About Fucking Time. I'm combing stages left and right. I get to where I think there's a hidden pathway, it turns out I'm right. I get those extra boxes, alright, my sense of curiosity is rewarded. Box gem, here I come. I get to the end, and I'm still fucking short by like 8 or 9 boxes, or worse, 1 box. And this happened so goddamn much that I lost count and interest. It was exhausting. No, I'm gonna be here all fucking month if I try to nab everything for this game. Oh, we got a new stage here. Let me see what that can. Oh my god. 393. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Selene, help me, I'm gonna faint. Come back here! And early on, hell, even around the midway point, they're relatively comfortable to nab. And then around the second half, these sons of bitches are close to the end of the stage, and fucking up near the end means resetting the whole stage over again. Or you fuck up close to the beginning because now you're flustered and you hit reset, meaning sitting through a 20 to 25 second load screen every single time. And this was played on a PS4 Pro. I can't imagine how worse it is on standard hardware. These can be Wrath of Cortex on PS2 bad, and it was a little off-putting. Hopefully something that could be fixed in a patch. I recall Insane Trilogy having a similar issue at launch that was later fixed, so maybe it's only a matter of time. I got all the tapes, I got the platinums in all of them, I unlocked the General's outfit, please validate my suffering! And there's still more collectibles. The Relics from Time Trials, complete with Sapphire, Gold, and Platinum tiers. There's the Color Gems, which if you played Crash 2, oh man, I hope you're prepared to go through some serious shit to find and grab these. There's also these perfect relics that you can nab by managing to complete the stage in one life while grabbing all the gems except the hidden one. Going for that old school Crash 1 challenge that we've long since moved away from because nobody liked it then, so why the fuck will we like it now? After a specific point, you unlock inverted stages, which are the same stages only flipped horizontally, and they have this strange filter that are admittedly very cool to see in action, but they have their own gems to collect. What the fuck? I'm down with future games bringing this back because something as novel as playing a level in different clothes can go a long way, even if it causes Crash's bottom teeth to clip through his jawline. If you're still on the fence, then I say just wait for a price drop before playing it. But I do recommend that you play it because I'm serious, just playing the game stage to stage, not giving a flying fuck about 100% completion. This is a fantastic platformer. One of the best in Crash Bandicoot, lots of meat with very little fat. If this is what's in store for Crash's future, I am all in that bitch. Just tone down all this shit next time, please.